Welcome to the Fantasy Football Clown Show. I'm your host, Ed, along with Trader Dan. So each week, myself and Dan get together and just kind of bring you into our discussion about football and just kind of unpack maybe the week that was, the week going forward, and maybe how we set up our teams a little bit. And just to throw out there that there's not one way to play fantasy football, and we sure play it differently. And so that's why this makes this conversation maybe kind of invigorating or exciting to listen to a little bit, because we approach fantasy football differently to try to get to the same result of winning money. And so would love for you guys to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave any comments. Maybe you agree with Dan, maybe you agree with me. And we also take a look at trades that happen that are posted in the Discord. And so we try to break those down and try to figure out sometimes maybe what the trader was thinking or what their goal was in it. And I'm a real disciplined approach to that, but as far as that goes. But before we get into it, let's take a look at some of the things happening. And Dan, welcome. I know you were out of town a lot on Sunday. Did you watch any football?
Of course I did. It was my anniversary.
So it was your anniversary, and you still figured out a way, huh? So.
Hey, man, I told her before we got married that football comes first.
Wow. And you're still married. That's pretty amazing. That 1 year, congratulations.
I didn't tell her after we got married. I told her before we got married.
Well, that's what I mean. And you still lasted a year, and she still decided to stay with you. So that's pretty cool. That's good stuff. Was week 2 injured? Was there a lot of injuries this year in week 2?
The running backs are just now you see why teams don't want to invest multi-year deals with them.
But now let me ask you this though, and I was listening to some guys on NFL radio, which is part of my routine each day, that some front office guys, Pat Kerwin, Jim Miller, former player, former front office guy, and they just made a suggestion today that maybe there's the adverse effect that if you don't pay running backs, then people don't want to become running backs. And if they think that they can't get paid at all of a sudden the running back will become extinct. Like if you can't get paid to do a job and you don't pay, there's no ability to get paid, then why would you be like Bijan Robinson coming out and say, hey, I'll be a running back? Why wouldn't you come out and say, no, I'm a receiver. I'm not doing the running back thing. Like I'm going to be in this job for a longer period of time. And I get it that they need to pay the left tackle, and they need to pay the defensive tackle, and they need to pay the pass rusher. But I often wonder if maybe this isn't a knee-jerk reaction to Ty Gurley having a knee trouble, or maybe the big contracts getting signed, and then they having some injuries like what we saw, and maybe it's gone a little bit too far the other way. Maybe that's part of the problem. I don't know. Are you going to let your son be a running back, Dan? Seriously, like, or would you say, hey, why don't you play DB, or why don't you play receiver? Like third receivers make $15 million a year on a team, and star running backs make $8 million, right? Like the best of the best.
Hopefully the NFL comes up with a solution and gets these guys paid. I think you hit it on the nail when we talked about it earlier, that maybe some of these running backs aren't going to be playing through injuries as much like they used to. And, like Eckler, the ankle sprain that he finished the game with, and, he's out a week and possibly no timeline for return.
Yeah,
and that's not like Eckler. Eckler is one of those guys that, you have to wrestle him to get him off the field, injured, not injured. He's just one of those, and he takes such good care of his body. His off-season program is phenomenal. And then you just see an ankle sprain, and most of that time when I can come back, and it's like, it might have something to do with the fact that they don't want to pay you.
So let's go through some of this. So we've got Eckler, we've got Chubb, we've got Akers for non-injury, we've got Barkley, we've got Taylor, we've got Hall, we've got Dobbins, we've got Jamal Williams, we've got David Montgomery, and we've got Kenneth Gainwell, right? Like I think I just named off starting running backs for teams, right? Like we just went through quite a few starting running backs for teams, and all of a sudden, if I mean, maybe they weren't all the number ones exactly, but if we have 32 teams and I named, 12 guys out of 32 teams, that's pretty crazy. I sure didn't name 2 on any team. So,
Right.
we're well underway there with 12 out of 32. I mean, a lot of, I feel like you're right. I feel like a lot of injuries, happening at the running back position, more so than I remember before. So that's
I think part of it's got to do with the they're not getting hitting training camps like they used to. They're not playing the preseason games like they used to. And they are just, everyone's just so amped up. It's the beginning of the season, and these people, they're just, I mean, you see some of these hits that these running backs are taking. It's like, holy moly. And they're not ready for it,
Yeah, no, I agree.
It's too bad.
So applying that to fantasy, I guess before we even get there, so we got all those running back injuries. And I always like to take a look, if you know me, about the quarterback position, especially in Superflex 2-quarterback league, 3-quarterback leagues. We have those now in the climbing community, right? Kind of eye-opening to me with the possibility of maybe Browning playing quarterback for the Bengals this week, and for Minshew, a distinct possibility of playing for the Colts. But so that would get us 4 quarterback changes if we count Zach Wilson and Josh Dobbs. That would be 4 quarterback changes by week 3 for the given week. But last year, if we were to look back, we actually had 4 quarterback changes for week 3 as well. So we had Joe Flacco in for Zach Wilson. We had Jacoby Brissett in for Deshaun Watson, which we knew preseason that both of those were going to happen. And then we had the Dak Prescott injury in week 1. So we had Cooper Rush playing quarterback there in Dallas. And then Trey Lance got hurt in week 2. And so Jimmy G started week 3 and, for quite a while after that. So last year we were kind of at that 4 point. If we do not have anything with, if we have Minshew and Browning starting this week, then we'd be kind of equivalent to last year. What are you hearing about the Bengals and Joe Burrow? And, is he going to play, or is he?
No, I don't think so. I think they're gonna, starting off 0-2. They look terrible, and there's something wrong with Burrow. I think he's playing through the injury, and I think that they're gonna try to bring Browning in, kind of hold the fort down, and the offense is abysmal. I mean, it's abysmal. It's. I'm shocked. Like, I never saw this coming with that offense, and I think that he's just not. Joe Burrow's not himself.
They started slow last year, right?
They did.
2, 0-3. I mean, they started abysmal last year.
Well, he missed, but Joe Burrow missed all of preseason and training camp and everything else. So it was expected that he was going to come in. Like, it was kind of like, okay, and I'm not saying it doesn't happen again this time, but I think that, boy, you got a franchise quarterback. You just you just can't take that chance. You can't take that chance that this could be something that stems out and be a nagging injury, 1 for all year. Then 2, if it's he ends up needing surgery or something because you didn't give him a couple weeks to rest. I just think that they play it safe with him.
Well, I guess I think that I'm looking back at last year, and I guess I don't think there's a panic. I think it's let's get him right. I think Jamar Chase said before the year that he wishes that Joe Burrow would take a couple weeks and come back when he's healthy.
Correct.
The end of September. And so what I'm hearing around, and I mean, it's all speculation, so I want to be clear that I don't have any sources that know anything, but that even IR isn't off the table. Take 4 weeks and rest it up good and come back for week 6 and call it good.
If they're 2-4 with a healthy Joe Burrow, I mean, they're
let's take a run.
Playoff. I mean, if they can hold the fort down 2-2 with a backup quarterback, which I haven't gotten a chance to kind of dig into their schedule a little bit, but the season's young, and you see the way the injuries are happening, and the quarterbacks are starting to fall. The running backs are definitely starting to fall. You start seeing defensive guys going down. Listen, you can win with just good defense and a good rushing game, and I think that's what they're going to try to do for a few weeks.
Yeah, and I can see them. I can really see that happening. What do you think about Minshew? And I think that there's something more to. I mean, yes, there's concussion protocol, but with the practice report and no activity today with Richardson, I think there's more to this injury and how he raised his hand and said something's not right.
Yeah, well, his return to play is going to be, very, very detailed. I think, another one, young quarterback, supposedly the franchise, and these college kids, they come out and they're, they took those hits at college and bounced back up because they were the bigger guys in college, and they're finding out real quick. This is 2 weeks in a row Richardson's come out of the game. You know what I mean? And he's gonna be one of those things. You either figure out a way not to get hit, or you better figure out a way to become a little bit more accurate passing, because you can't take those hits. And he's taking hits. He's not like getting pushed out of bounds. You know what I mean? He's getting clocked, and you hate to see it as a Colts fan. You hate to see it. It really is a football fan. You just hate to see some of these guys just get hit like they do, and miss time and games, and and I really think that the NFL's got those concussion helmets that they wear in the preseason and the training camps and stuff. I really wish they could get away to getting those in the NFL, and they're supposed to reduce concussion by I can't even tell you how much, but by a significant amount in head injuries and stuff like that. And to me, it looks stupid. It's a little cumbersome on their head, but you know what? Let them bounce off each other and get back up, and who cares?
So what's the reason for not letting them wear them, or not mandating that they are worn in regular season games?
I don't know. I know it's mandated at certain positions. Not all the players have to wear them, but at certain positions they have to wear them in training camp. And they're they're ugly. There's no two ways around, but they work. And to me is, if you're gonna if the NFL is going to try to convince everybody that we're here for protect the players, and we're here for this and we're here for that, and then all of a sudden they're not putting their top of the line equipment out there for these guys. So I don't really know why they're not doing it. I don't know.
Gotcha. So just kind of to transition to, with injuries, obviously comes the waiver wire, and in Dynasty and most redrafts, I think Ford was the most was probably the premier handcuff. I know lots of years everybody thought Alexander Madison was the premier handcuff to Dalvin Cook, and then people thought, well, maybe it was Kareem Hunt to Chubb, and maybe even Pollard to Zeke in Dallas was kind of a premier.
Absolutely.
Were like the premier cuffs. Well, this year I think that the premier cuff really, one of the premier cuffs really was, Ford to Chubb, and I think he was really highly owned, and so you probably aren't getting him, I guess, is where I go with that. But guys that I think do have a chance to play is Breida. I do think Barkley's going to be out, and I guess you're a Giants guy, Dan. You probably know more than me, but short week just feels like it's not gonna, it's going to be a week that they're gonna, that he's going to get some more time to rest, and they'll go at it with Breida and maybe a little bit of Gray, right? I don't know.
Be a good time to see the rookie. You know what I mean? From everything I'm reading, Dable and Saquon are on the same page as, we'll let you know Thursday night. They said Saquon healed or is feeling much better than they thought he was today, and that he's all possibility of giving it a go. I don't like it on a short week. I'm a realist. You're probably not going to beat the Niners with Barkley. Dable's a smart guy. I don't think he wants to kind of relay that message to his team, because he's just that good of a leader that, hey, when we go out there, we have a chance to beat anybody. But he's a smart guy. He, in the back of his head, he's probably looking at it saying, am I really going to be able to go out there and beat these guys with a 50% Saquon Barkley and then have to turn around? I just go there. And to be honest with you, Saquon's made some great plays, don't get me wrong, but he hasn't really done anything extraordinary to carry this team. I mean, Dallas completely shut him down after the first drive. Arizona had him shut down in the first half. Second half, he made some plays out of the backfield catching the football. Well, you know what? That's what Brady does well anyway. So,
Yeah.
And you're not going to run the ball much against the Niners defense. And chances are you're probably going to be down most of the game. So,
Yeah.
I'm a Barkley fan, big fan of him, but why bring him out?
Yeah, I think so. Breeda's a good ad. The Reynolds running back from Detroit, good ad this week. I think that's somebody that's really available out there. And I always like to be one step ahead, right? So if Ford was the premier handcuff to Chubb, Chuba Hubbard is the premier handcuff to Miles Sanders.
Yeah.
And Miles
You're not
Sanders
getting Chuba Hubbard anymore,
is getting injured, and there's nobody bidding on Chuba Hubbard this week. So I don't know if Chuba Hubbard will be needed next week or the following week or ever any week, but I know that Miles Sanders typically gets hurt at some point during the year. And without him getting hurt, Chuba Hubbard is still getting market share, getting carries. He does exactly the same thing as Sanders. So it's not like he's got this specific defined role. He just gets touches in the second quarter and gets kind of the seconds, but it's okay. But you have the chance as soon as there's an injury, he just like 1-for-1 swap in and he gets it off. So my speculative ad of the week is really that. I guess I'd like to give you guys that. And it's somebody just to grab and then see how it all works. And then obviously Browning, Minshew, those are two quarterbacks to grab off there. If you don't have them, I was looking around today. I have 9 shares of Browning already. Yeah. So going into the week, like that was a speculation grab last week for me, if you guys remember. And so it's like that. You always want to stay one week ahead on speculation grabs and try to not look where the injuries are going to be, but set yourself up.
I agree, and I think that if you're in, especially if you're in a 2 QB league, you want to start looking at finding those backup quarterbacks that are still out there on the waiver, and you're going to be a week where you're probably going to need one of those guys. If they're there, you snag them. But as far as running backs, holy moly, it's just so hard to predict who's going where and what, and you're seeing. I mean, I can tell you in the leagues that I'm in, with the exception of like my 8-team local league and the 10-team family business we're in, these dynasty leagues, I mean, these running back, I mean, these are deep leagues. These running backs are there. I mean, they're not there. Chuba Hubbard's not there. You're talking like Chris Rodriguez from Washington, gone. You know what I mean? Like, you're not even grabbing these guys. So,
but in those leagues, and honestly, Reynolds is there though. I mean,
Reynolds
I've plucked a lot of Reynolds off the waiver wire,
right.
And even some Breida. I mean, I'm seeing Breida, available. I do have some claims in on Browning.
Tony Jones Jr. is there quite a bit yet.
Yeah.
He's not a bad guy to go grab. I think. I don't think they're going to bring in help. I think they're going to ride Tony Jones for a week. He did enough to kind of hold the fort down.
Yeah.
Williams is one of those guys, but they got Kendre Miller that can come back. Kamara will be coming off suspension. I don't see any big, he's a safe guy to go put some money on if you're looking for a waiver wire pickup to get you through a week or two. Not if you lost Chubb. But I'm telling you, I've been watching trades all day today. I'm watching Ford go for 2 seconds, and I'm just like shaking my head. I'm like, not that he didn't show anything yesterday that didn't establish that he wasn't worth 2 seconds, but knowing Cleveland, they're bringing somebody in, right? And it sounds like Kareem Hunt was there visiting today. You bring Kareem Hunt into that lineup, who's the starting running back?
I kind of actually heard from the beat writer on that. I think that Ford is going to be the bell cow. If they were to bring in a Kareem Hunt would be back in the Kareem Hunt role. Like, he would be back in the Ford would be Chubb and Kareem Hunt would be Kareem Hunt. Like, that's how that would look. And because
that would
Kareem Hunt was really, they feel like he's lost a step everywhere he is, and there was enough pop juice out of Ford. That's why Hunt didn't come back.
He looked phenomenal. A guy who I just wish they had kept. I love him to death, and I think if he just needs his opportunity as Dearness Johnson. I really just wish the Browns had kept him, and
Well,
this would have been his opportunity.
they're looking at a trade there. There was some talks with the Jaguars today on a, of course, this is all speculation and I'm just kind of hearing around, but they did make a call at least, or that's what I guess that's Mary Jo Cabot reported that this week or today. So I do think that they're looking for some stopgaps. I did see the Kareem Hunt deal. The person that would honestly concern me the most would be playoff Lenny. Like, he's the guy that I think if he were to decide, hey, I want to play football, which is what I'm believing that maybe is the case, he might not want to play football. His circumstance might not be right to play. But if he were to decide, I think he would probably get a starting job somewhere. The rest of the guys, including Hunt, I think aren't. I think that's part of the problem. I think that's kind of why they're not signing, because they don't like the potential role maybe that they would have to kind of earn it, type of thing. Now, and I think the Ford is probably has the most juice out of what I saw last night. I was like, wow, this guy has juice. Like it all started to make sense to me as why they let Dearness go, why they said, you know what, Hunt, you lost a step. We're pretty good with this guy behind. It actually even made sense to me why they traded for the running back from New England, because if you remember at the beginning of the season, Ford was hurt, and they just needed somebody to get him through. They didn't sign anybody. They just knew they needed somebody to get him ready till Ford was back, and then then the guy could play special teams for him. And so I kind of feel like that's sort of what I think he's actually I really think he's actually a guy that they have now. I was reviewing. I have 21 shares of Ford, and I looked at my maximum pay was a 4th round rookie pick. So I picked him up for $0 off that, and I've drafted him in the 4th round. I think 4.2 was the earliest I ever picked him. And so I'm just kind of reviewing that. I got 21 shares. There's a lot of shares of a guy that I have $0 into. Like, he's a free square for me.
Yeah.
And that's what I guess I mean. I feel like I've held him for a year. Like, many people dropped him in a year. And I mean, I've had him a year and a half now. I guess May of 22 was when I got him. So yeah, I think that I actually think that I probably wouldn't trade him for 2 seconds because those can be speculative picks too. Like, they're not even that unless, I think that here in week 2, people are desperate, but the more they lose, they get more desperate. And so the only thing that hurts that desperation is an injury, really.
Well, I think the people selling thought the same thing. They're going to bring in a guy. I mean, you got to remember, there's still guys on the trade block. You're talking Jonathan Taylor still out there. Cam Akers is still out there. If let's say the Browns, and who knows, let's say they pony up and say, we paid Deshaun Watson. We're Super Bowl or bust. We need a star running back. Our team is based off of running. Let's go get ourselves Jonathan Taylor and pay the price. I'm not saying that they're going to. I'm just saying if they did, right? Now, what is Ford worth?
What he was yesterday, right? What he was yesterday.
Exactly, a 4th round pick, a 3rd round pick.
And I guess I would say is, what did you draft for that 2nd round pick? Or 2 of them. You have 2 dart throws now in the 2nd round. and that's fine. I'd almost rather have Ford at the yesterday because we're only one Jonathan Taylor away from him being back to where we are today. Like, it feels almost the same way. Like, I almost feel like, and I would also put that Jonathan Taylor going there is not a minus money bet. Like, it's not a bet that's likely to happen. It's a bet that could happen.
The problem is it's paying off.
The odds are good for that it won't happen. Like,
nobody's going to pay up. I mean, the Colts got to get back to reality. I mean, do they wanted Jalen Waddle plus like a 1st or something? Like,
they said they wanted Christian Watson and Jalen Reed from the Green Bay. I mean, like they're looking for and so what does that mean? You know what that means? The owner said, I'm not trading you. And then he recounted and said, oh yeah, if somebody will pay the price that I want, then I'll trade you. So the price became so high that I'm not trading you. Remember that? That's what
I think he's traded. I think he gets traded.
You know?
Yes. And here's the thing for anyone listening. Jonathan Taylor right now is a great pickup, even if you're paying top dollar, because with the way the injuries are piling up in these running backs, Jonathan Taylor will be back just in time for the bye weeks, and you have a fresh running back. So if you're getting him now, value-wise for the price,
you think he will get traded? But how does that look? I guess how does that look to you?
What? Just look at each week. I mean, 12, 13 running backs are down.
Yeah, but what are they going to give up? That I mean,
I think it'd be slightly less.
Love, and I want now. I want more. Like I feel like
no,
is like saying no. I want it to. It's going to keep getting higher. My price is.
No. I think it'll more or less come down to. I think he's worth what basically Christian McCaffrey went for, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay.
He's worth, a day two, a day three, a second, a third, and what, a fourth and a fifth or something like that, right? It was like every round pick. To me, he's worth somewhere in that vicinity of value.
Yeah, but as long as he wants a first plus a star player, how's that going to look?
He's not. And I can't see him eating Jonathan Taylor until they, what are they going to do? Franchise him and not play him? I mean, it's just not a healthy situation.
What I'm saying is, I'm going to franchise you. I want to see if you come back. I'm going to see if you come back and play.
Maybe. I mean, maybe it's not a good environment. You got a rookie quarterback.
Oh, I think it's awful. I think it's a stubborn owner that's a billionaire.
Yeah.
That's proven that, you know what, you signed a contract and I'm going to make you live to the contract. I don't care what you think.
Right.
And I'd rather pay you to not play than let you tell me that you're going to trade me.
Perhaps. I mean,
I feel like that's where it is. And I agree with you that I don't know how he plays there because there's still the animosity is still crazy according to everybody around the team.
I just think he gets traded. I think the front office sits down and says, we got a great young quarterback. Zach Moss is holding the fort down. You're seeing what's happening. These running backs are going down like crazy. Let's go get some pieces so that way we can build around Anthony Richardson. And if Jonathan Taylor don't want to be a part of it, that's fine. That's fine. We'll go get another running back. And you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if you don't start seeing more teams doing it. It would be sad. It's so sad to see these running backs, guys that they're your favorite players on the football team. And they just get treated like crap. It's like, like to me, pay Saquon $12 million. What's the big deal? You paid Kenny Galladay 19. He did nothing. 19 mil. Here you go.
Yeah, no, that's it.
At least you know what you got with Saquon.
No, that's right. That's right. No, I agree with that. Yeah, I can see where he's a buy low. I guess I don't want to pay. I never want to pay top dollar. I never want to pay middle dollar. I can see where I'd buy him and take a chance if the price is right. I think that makes sense.
I think he's a great buy if you can get him. I think coming off the IR at week 5.
Is that when he's going to come back? Like that? He's eligible.
He could pass a test right now. He said, I according to him, there was no reason for him to even go on IR. He said,
well, that's why we know
now
there's funny business, right? There's funny business. They were
absolutely.
putting him on IR.
They want to deal with the bullshit. They couldn't find trade partners. They just put him away. And actually, to be honest with you, it's probably working to their advantage right now because watching these running backs ball, we got one right here for you. And he was the best in the league 2 years ago. So do you want him or don't you? But, if it's me, if I have a chance to win, I'm keeping him. But if I have a chance to sell them and I'm in a rebuild mode and someone's willing to pay up to a team that might be able to compete, and I can get some young guys to build around, multiple guys.
Well, I don't think I'd sell him if I owned him at this point because his value is only going to get better if he plays. Like obviously, I'm gonna wait for the moment that he plays if I can, and if I'm rebuilding, I'm gonna wait. I'm waiting until. I just know that as the year goes on, the only thing that hurts my value is injury, right? Like as we go, the closer we get to the trade deadline, the more desperate people get, the more losses they get by. I lost by less than 1/10 of a point, and the more times you lose by less than 1/10 of a point, and you think you're good, the more that you get amped up, and the more emotional an owner gets, and the more that they're just liable to overpay. I mean, I'm playing a guy this week that has no quarterbacks. He's going to take a 0 against me at quarterback, and he was telling me that Baker was too expensive, and I told him that Baker's going to be 3 first-round picks because I wanted to let him know that, hey, it's just expensive. Like, right? I'm not selling him. It was really the moral of the story. And, he's like, well, you don't need 7 quarterbacks. But I'm like, yeah, but you don't have any. That's the whole point of this thing. Like, I'm going to beat you this week with, like, Josh Reynolds as my receiver 1. Like, that's because I can make up ground because you take a 0. Like,
right.
You have Joe Burrow, and if he doesn't play, you're screwed. Like, I have Browning, so you're screwed.
Right.
And so, that's what I think. As you go, people get desperate, and he will too. He'll get desperate. That guy will get desperate because I'll beat him. He'll be now 2-1, and my slop will be 2-1 team. And now he's like got to figure out, okay, how am I gonna? And I'll have the head-to-head. So all of a sudden now he's gonna be like, what the shit just happened?
Right.
And so there we are. But bringing in the trades, I guess to transition a little bit, we do have a couple trades, and I know that
baby.
Producer Brad has a trade to bring up here on the screen. So, truth be told, we haven't seen these trades yet. So anxious to kind of see. And Dan always breaks down these trades well. But so it looks like we have a 2nd in 2024 for Robert Woods, a 3rd, and a 4th. And holy shit, I hope we get the league dues paid for 2026 when you start trading away I don't care that it's a 4th round pick. I mean, I might actually make this trade just in the premise that we're going to have an owner paying for 2026. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just want that gives me stability for the league. Like, I'd probably make the trade more because I want the league to become stable because the guy has to pay for 2026, I would imagine, in here. But what do you think of the trade? Just kind of looking at it at face value.
So when I look at it both ways, I can see why both teams would make the trade. But I guess it just depends on where Neil CS 14, where he kind of values himself. This at this point in the year, if he's like, hey, I got a chance to go win this, I added depth at wide receiver. Woods is having a phenomenal year. I can see Woods continuing the production. I don't think this is a fluke. They're throwing the football. You know what I mean? They're going to be behind in games. Their defense isn't very good. They're going to be behind, and they're going to throw. And, Nico Collins, Woods, you see Tank Dell starting to come out. These receivers, he's going to put you up double-digit points. And to be honest with you, when you pop a 3rd and a 4th, it's just extra value you can use down the road, even if it's just to sweeten up a trade a little bit. So I actually like the deal for both teams. If the J-Ho is more or less like, hey, I'm middle of the pack. He understands it. He gets it. Let's go get a 2nd round pick. A guy like Zay Flowers or something has been there several times. Guys like Sam Laporta fell in the early second round in some of our drafts. So there's still a lot of value there in that 2nd round pick, and they're valuable. They're valuable to have, and so I think as long as Neil is trying to win, and J-Ho is trying to rebuild, I think it's a great trade for both teams.
Well, I feel like it's a trade that you would make, and as we look at the teams and what their actual teams look like as they come up, we'll take a peek at what the roster looks like for J-Ho. But it feels like a trade that you would make, Dan, to me. You like to add those late round picks to improve the 2nd round. So you'll throw in that 3rd and the 4th just to get, a player like Woods that might bring a 3rd on his own without anything else. Right. You're like, well, no, I don't really want a 3rd. I want a 2nd. How can I get a 2nd? Well, I'll throw a 3rd and a 4th later on that, you know what, quite honestly, are just dart throws. And in leagues that I have a lot of competition, right, I kind of value all my picks as lottery tickets, and I want as many chances at the lottery as I can because I don't have to be very right. Like when I pick guys in May and I've got 20 picks,
right?
I know I don't have 20 roster spots, but I have 20 guys. Half of them don't even make the freaking team. Half of them are Sky Moore and are hurt. John Mechie, and like they're just guys that never actually are anything, and I just kind of put them off in the sunset somewhere, and then only to be gotten a year later. Like I roll them off the out of there's a couple quarterbacks, Stetson Bennett. There's guys that got cut. The guy from the Chargers that got cut and got re-added there. And, I had those guys. And so that's a lot of my late round draft picks. But then there's other teams that I feel like aren't as skilled a player. And I almost feel like I can pick guys off the waiver wire at the end of the draft that they missed that are the same as having a fourth round pick. So then I want to throw as many fourth round picks at the problem as I can, because if I can get more seconds, that's better for me. So I feel like that's kind of where it is. Now looking at J-Ho, here in his team, it looks like he is young, right? And he's got a 1-1 record. So, he's got a 1-1 record. And if I remember right, I'm actually in this league, as you see, I'm 1-1 as well there.
Yeah.
And Neil
he had to make that trade. He needs that second round pick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. That he's not going to win this year with just even looking at that. Quarterback room he's rebuilt.
Can we look at those quarterbacks again? What did he have there? Oh yeah,
Mac
so
Jones.
He's got Mac. It's a super flex league, so he's got Mac Jones, and that's it. Like
brilliant trade for him. I think that really he gets a second round. He might even be, and I tell you what, there's some quarterbacks going to be coming out of this draft class this year, and I think they're gonna slide in the second round with all this other talent. You're gonna see starting quarterbacks possibly in the second round.
And even giving up the third and the fourth, well, I guess they're in later years. But
right.
Look, he's got 2 firsts, he's got 3 seconds, got 3 or 4 thirds. So
we can move.
Really
we can move
for the future there.
Yeah.
And then taking a look at Neil here, I kind of like it for both. It's a good way to
he's got Brock Purdy, Sam Howell, and he's got Ryan Tannehill is a filler. Kind of a little bit older.
Maybe Rodgers coming back at the end of the year. I mean, he's got.
Yeah.
Not that going in there. What is
Tony Pollard, Etienne, and Pacheco? Tony Pollard is. Don't be surprised if he's not RB1 at the end of the year. He's or RB2 behind Christian McCaffrey, but he's phenomenal. I mean, the guy's incredible.
And then just adding Woods to the receiver room really does make a difference.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Puts a little depth. He's going to be throwing Tyreek Hill out there every game. Then he's got Christian Kirk, who's coming off a great game. So he's got then he's got D-Hop out there. I mean, he's got D-Hop and Robert Woods both on the same team, but Christian Watson, he's waiting to put back in. So I tell you what, that's a great trade for Robert to grab Robert Woods. I think that's it. And he gets, like you said, he gets a 3rd and a 4th. And I can tell you right now, I'm looking at just some stuff going around the leagues and talking to some people, and that I can never say his name right. Puka Nacua, or whatever his name is, Nacua. He was a 3rd round pick. You know what I mean? They're there. Those guys are there. Jalen Hyatt, 3rd round pick. Now he's coming off a big game, and people are now writing me on my shares of him, and they'll ask me what I got to get for him. And I'm a Giants guy, man. They're not for sale. Like, I don't care if they don't play. I got Sterling Shepard on my bench. Just so I got to root against them
for a while, and it's good to know what teams people are fans of, and so J-Ho is a Broncos fan, and as you see, I play in this league, so it's kind of like I was nervous at first that hey, this is a trade.
That's a trade that makes perfect sense for both teams. And
I agree.
A lot of times I don't see that.
Yeah, I think it's a great trade. I agree.
Good for those guys. Yeah. Good for both of them.
Yeah, and it's kind of, you can almost see the blueprint. Like one of the things that I think that I've seen today, Dan, that I'm wondering what you've seen, is that I think people, I always think that I play on people's emotion and that they panic. But today's panic is worse than I've ever seen before that I can remember. Something in my mind, like I feel like I haven't even had to stoke a fire or fan it at all. It's just like this mad frenzy of people not realizing that. And I did a little exercise, and I wanted to ask you about it after we look at this last trade. I guess I'm going to hold that off and kind of tease that. But yeah, I have a question for you after this trade that we review. We have another trade to look at, but just to kind of ask you your thoughts on all the emotion that's going on today, because it feels like it's supersized. It's crazy. So do we have the next trade that we can take a look at? Here it comes. Let's see here. Oh, we got a Troutman trade. This will be interesting to see. So we got Juju Smith-Schuster. I'm hearing he's like the fifth option in receiving, but then he came out and looked fairly good there. I guess it would depend on the settings, and if I need Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think the Troutman is. What was Troutman's usage? I guess I don't know that, but did Troutman get the ball in without
No.
there?
No,
Yeah, like he wasn't even.
He threw a goose egg up, I believe. I think he threw a 0 up in a 35-point scoring game. But here's the deal. Would you trade Juju Smith-Schuster for a second?
Yes.
Every single time.
Yeah.
Don't even hesitate. Right? So just to get Troutman almost just seems like it just a little bit more juice on it. Maybe it was for a roster spot. The guy's like, hey, I got to drop somebody anyway. I'll just throw them to you.
Yeah.
And you know, you see that in trades all the time. Hey, listen, I'm going to drop this. The guy I'm going to drop. You want me to throw him in the trade with you? You can have him. You ain't got to fight with him on waivers because he's going to get picked up. You know, just to kind of, you know, the courtesy of making a trade. And I think when you do that, people are more susceptible to come back with a trade with you. You know, you and I talk about it all the time. I'd like, all right, I'm going to give you these two guys. You got to cut. Who you cutting? Maybe it's a guy. Why throw in the deal? You know what I mean? Yeah. Even though the deal's already been kind of predetermined. Who
I like that actually. I like good call out. I guess I was looking at the trade itself, trying to figure out what Troutman was, but it really is Juju Smith-Schuster for a second. And
correct.
I'm kind of feeling like I'd sell him for third. I mean, maybe I'm down on him, but I thought he looked better than the leading up comments were last week to him. But I will say that they're throwing to Parker all the time. They've got Kendrick Bourne that is out targeting him.
Yeah.
Both tight ends are out targeting. We got Gesicki. We've got Hunter Henry had a great day. We outlined
he's going to be boomer bust. And to be honest with you, I'd rather take a second round pick. And try to land. And who knows where that second round pick could be? I mean, we all saw a few years ago fall to the second round. We saw Justin Jefferson fall a couple times in the second round.
But I think T. Higgins is real. T. Higgins was there. Mingo this year. You know, that's the kind of player you're going to get.
I can tell you, I can look at some of the leagues I was in. Justin Jefferson was the second round. I mean, you saw Henry Ruggs and stuff go in front of him. They were just it's just the way the world works. You know what I mean? It's you kind of draft where they're drafted. I mean, look at this year. Zay Flowers was a second round draft pick when we first started drafting.
I don't know. I didn't feel like he was always in the top. Every once in a while,
I picked him up at 2-3 in like 4 leagues.
Oh, wow.
That I drafted in. Oh, absolutely. When Will Levis was still high in the draft, before he started kind of falling off, the tight end, especially in the Clownhead leagues, Mayer and Laporta and Kincaid, and, you know, they moved up. Devin Achane at first before, you know, I mean, when he was drafted by the Dolphins, he slid into that first round, Charbonnet. And you're just seeing a guy like Zay Flowers just drop because of the Baltimore offense. And then you started hearing reports, hey, this guy's a real deal. And now all of a sudden, it's like people were trying to get him in like the 1-8, 1-9 area.
Yeah, well, I feel like he was the fourth receiver pretty consistently off the board. But I was feeling like on my list, of course, I had him under. I never liked Quentin Johnson, so I never drafted him high at all. Actually, don't own any shares of him. But then I took JSN where I could get him, and I took the guy from Minnesota.
Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison just felt like the two guys that were like they're going to contribute. They're going to play.
I wanted Zay Flowers, but I took those guys knowing that still was the value. You know, try to.
I like Addison the best out of them all. But
what was that? You like Addison the best?
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah. To be honest with you, I'm not an NFL talent evaluator. It's not because of talent. It was because of landing spots.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, you put Jordan Addison by Zay Flowers, and I couldn't tell you who the better receiver was. I
had Zay Flowers as the number one. I mean, it kind of went with John Guru Hansen. I mean, he was kind of big on Tajay Spears and Zay Flowers, and everything I've seen so far. That was probably pretty good analysis. Like, you know, they were, you know, pretty high end. Like he honestly had before the draft ever happened, before the landing spots ever had, he really felt like after Gibbs, he had Tajay Spears as the next best running back, and he actually had Zay Flowers as the receiver 1 on his list, like he said. And I'm
they know, but
yeah,
let's be honest. It's about landing spot. Look at this Puka kid. You know, Cooper Kupp goes down.
Yeah, no,
he's getting 20 targets a game. It's like, dude, that's unheard of to get that many targets. And now, I mean, this guy, I don't know. I don't know what to think of it. I'm just blown away. I wish I had drafted him.
Well, I do, but right now,
I wanted Hyatt there, instead of him.
There's always times. I mean, just like as I was telling, some people that were talking to me today, there's always times to buy guys, and like
now is not the time to buy them.
Well, no, now's the time to sell him. Like it was kind of like at the beginning of the year, everybody used to laugh at me when I would say sell Garrett Wilson. Well, now you buy Garrett Wilson, but back in the summer, it was time to sell Garrett Wilson. I was selling him everywhere. I was just kind of going, and it wasn't because I didn't like Garrett Wilson. It was because I understood that it was ceiling time, and that's where Nakua is right now. He's at ceiling time, and there will be a time.
Makers, buddy. Should have sold your Cam Akers shares.
Well, there hasn't been a ceiling yet. Like that, is no purpose to sell. There's when is the ceiling? I haven't seen the ceiling yet. Like we see like floor all the time with him.
His ceiling was the day he was drafted.
Well, I didn't draft him then. Like I pick him for free. Like these are all low acquisition cost guys. Yeah. Like for me,
you got a lot of them.
Well, I do. I'm
bored. What though? He's gonna get a chance. He's gonna get a chance to start. He's not gonna catch James Cook, but he's gonna get a chance to start.
Who's that? Akers, you think?
Yeah, but remember you bet me $25 that Cam Akers would outscore James Cook this year?
Who? Yeah, I guess I.
Yeah, you're down like 25 points. So I'm keeping track for you though. Don't you worry, buddy.
All right. Yeah. Geez. Did we say anything about them getting injured or not playing? Did we have anything like that? Like he's not even on a team. Like my guy isn't even on a team. He's not.
Yeah. Listen, I only need one more performance out of James Cook, and he can be injured for the rest of the year. He's going to outscore Cam Akers.
I forgot about it, but yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, I guess I'm going to lose that. Jeez. I don't know if he'll ever. Yeah, I don't know. Like it might be over for him, honestly. But that's
he's gonna play. He's gonna play. Too many running back injuries. They need a guy with experience. He's gonna play.
And he's actually. I just don't. I feel like it's. Remember how down Sean McVay was on Jared Goff. Like he hated that guy. Like he wanted him gone in the worst way, and they had him blown for dead. And he goes to Detroit, and it's a whole new beginning. Like,
he looks good, man. He looks good.
And I kind of think, I feel like that's where Cam Akers is. Like, seriously, like, I'm not in the locker room, so I don't know.
He doesn't float on over to Detroit with his former buddy. I mean, you can't throw Gibbs out there for 40 plays. He'll be the next one hurt. They got to have a second running back.
Well, they have Bam Knight. I'm anxious to see if they signed him from the practice squad today. So, we'll see what Bam Knight does for them. And, I guess that's it. So here's my question. I was really grappling with this question today, and I have some of my research. But if you're 2-0 after 2 weeks, dynasty, but even in redraft, you're feeling really good, right? You're feeling really good.
Absolutely.
If you're 1-1, you're like, okay, I'm kind of still trying to figure out where I am. If you're 0-2, are you worried? If you have an 0-2 team, are you worried about that team? Let's call it redraft, which would be the most volatile piece. Are you worried about the team?
Yeah, I'm 0-2 in my redraft. I'm worried. I mean, I'm not overly spending time on it because it's a low-end, not a low-end league, but a lower-paying league where I'm more focused on some of these bigger leagues. But yeah, 0-2 sucks. You don't want to be 0-2.
I'm going to go a different way. Like I feel like in there's 14 weeks in a league, right? And I play in predominantly 12 team leagues with 6 teams. Half the teams go into the playoffs, right? So realistically, the record, just the math of it, is 8-6, pretty much guarantees me the playoffs. 7-7 may, but 8-6. If I finish 8-6, I'm probably going to the playoffs. Most times, not every time, but most times. I finish 8-6. Doesn't matter my potential points or any of the tiebreakers. I'm heading off. I'm in the top half of the league, right? So I'm looking at 0-2, and I'm not panicked at all because I'm saying
worried.
I go 6-6. I just got to go 6-6. Really, this is, and the first month is all random shit where it's like basically what the preseason.
You're out of the playoffs.
What was that?
If you're 0-2, you got to go better than 6-6.
No, you don't, because then you're.
It'd be
Oh
six
no, I
and eight.
guess you're 6-8. Yeah, I gotta go. You're right. I gotta go 8-4. I gotta go 8-4. Russell.
Right, you got to win 70% of your games to finish out.
Yeah, I gotta go 8-4. But I don't know about you, but I feel like I build depth. I'm really good at building depth, or maybe better than most. So I feel like the bye weeks are my time. Like I really do. I feel like bye weeks are my time. I'm usually better than most of my competitors during the bye weeks, and so I don't want to be 0-4 going into the bye weeks, but
Yeah.
1-3 doesn't ever scare me very much. Like
No.
I feel like 1-3, I'll go get it. And so I did the math, Dan. This is kind of probably crazy, but I have in redraft, I have 2 teams that are 0-2. I have 3 teams 1-1. I have 1 that's 2-0. And actually, I've got a team that I'm 4-0 playing against the league median as well. And that's my industry league. And so I'm really proud of that one, that 4-0, because I feel like that's where and what's kind of crazy there, it has team defense. And when I tell you my team defense this week, I've been streaming, but my Pittsburgh Steelers last night in team defense really made a really profound. They made the week for me with 2 touchdowns. So I say that to say that that's the difference between winning and losing almost there. But then I look at Dynasty, and I have 25 teams that started 0-2. And 29 that are 1-1, 5 that are 2-0, 2 that are 1-3, 4 that are 2-2, and 1 that's 3-1. But I wonder if those 25 teams that are 0-2, I wonder how many of them make the playoffs. Like I really wonder. I think a bunch. I really do. I think that I'll be sort of shocked if some of those 0-2s don't make the playoffs.
We'll see. I mean, like you said, if you got the depth and you're not sustaining all these injuries, you probably got a good chance. But
I mean, like I'm starting Joe Burrow and Trevor Lawrence as my 2 quarterbacks, and I'm 0-2. I feel like that's okay. Like they're going to be better than
those
they
guys
were.
those guys are gonna get better.
Those 2 had bad weeks in week 2. Like one of them had a bad week in week 1. Like that they're better than that. Like I'm good. I'm not going to be. I mean, I have losses in redrafts with Jamar Chase. Like, yeah, he didn't do good yet, but that isn't really the outcome that he probably will have. At some point, he'll come back to the mean. Like I feel like he'll, yeah. I guess I'm not that worried about those kind of guys. Like I think by the time we get into the thick of it, when I start looking at guys like, I mean, even Pat Mahomes hasn't performed good yet, and that's all right. Like they'll get better, right?
Well, for Pat Mahomes owners, I hope so.
Well, I think so. Like I'd be shocked if Pat Mahomes. I mean, I guess get hurt, but beyond getting hurt, I think he's going to have his better days ahead. So that's kind of what my musings are. Any parting words for all of our listeners, and before week 3, anything that you see out there that you think could help them, that could help, it to make a better fantasy player. Like I'm always big on it's not whether you make this trade, this guy for that guy. It's more about, is the process good? How you arrived at making the trade, the why behind why you did it. Like we looked at that one trade tonight and we said, man, we could easily see why each team did it, right? Like it made sense. Like it was a logical move. It wasn't about the payment. It was about of the trade. It was about what are they accomplishing. And so I always think that if you are accomplishing things, that makes a lot of sense. Like the payment for the trade isn't that important. It's getting somewhere. But that would be my one message, I guess, to owners. And then patience, right? Like a lot of people are behaving irrationally right now. Be patient through this process. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, you got to, get a plan and stick to your plan. It's obviously, the number one thing. If your plan was to go ahead and win and you start off 0-2 and you kind of see the writing on the wall and you're like, my team maybe isn't as good as I thought,
but
then, start trying to figure out where the high point is in your guys and recoup younger guys.
Yeah, but that even can be subjective. I started in a league last year 6-0, Dan, and then I got injuries to the running back. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to sell my second and my third for like Penny and Jeff Wilson. And then Jeff Wilson got traded and didn't play for a minute. Penny got hurt and didn't play for a minute. And I'm like, okay, now I'm just going to chase like the next item was I could trade my first, and I'm like, you know what? I'm now 6-0 kind of thing, and I'm like, you know what? Anything I do now is going to be chasing it, and I'm going to be worse next year. And if I don't win, I'm screwed. So I actually lost 8 in a row. I went 6-8 from that team, and all of a sudden I'm picking number 2 in the draft, and now I'm building the team. And this year, I'm tough to beat. Like because now I have Javonte, I have Brees Hall, I have James Cook. I'm just like I have a whole bunch of assets, that I can just go at it. And I think like guys like Gabe Davis and Sky Moore and Jamison Williams isn't quite back yet. So I mean, I might be even better next year with some of these guys, because they're there. But beyond that, I'm pretty good. Like I'm gonna be tough to beat when we get through Jameis. Well, Jameis suspension. I'm gonna be tough to beat. Like it's gonna be a tough team to beat. Even if Brees Hall gets hurt, it's not as big of a deal. I still have James Cook and Javonte. And even if they get hurt, I got more of that. I got Kenneth Gainwell. So I just got more. I just always have more. It doesn't matter. And if 4 or 5 guys get hurt, then I'll probably wait for next year because they're all young, and it's okay. So I kind of like to play it that way, really. I like to not think they're winners or not. I think that, as long as I'm healthy, I'm going to keep going. And
you can always change course on your plan.
Yeah, exactly. That kind of thing. But never try to assume at week 2. Like, I guess I caution people to say, hey, I'm going to try to win week 2, man. Week 10 can be way different. Like, I'd rather pay more in week 10 to get a guy when I can look and say, okay, the only thing that can happen to me bad is week 12, I'll have an injury with my guy. But I'm making this trade right now. I know who the opponent is. I know about how good they are. And I just need to get a win that week. And I guess I view it like this. If I need to get a win in week 3 to make the playoffs, I probably don't have a good enough team to win in the playoffs because I don't really know what's going to happen between week 3 and week 10, week 14. There's a lot of stuff can go wrong there.
Well, but so you got to also remember the league dynamics. So like clown heads, if you're in the top 2, you get a chance to go for the big money, right? Well, yeah, by week 2, week 3, I mean, you got to piss or get off the pot at that point. I mean, you wait around a week, you're 3 games behind second place. You're probably not getting in the big money. Now, you may go win the small playoff if you're content with that. That's fine. But I'm looking, and you and I talk about buddy, you don't want to pay now. You don't want to pay now. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I do because I can win and I've got to be in the top 2 to get the win.
Well, I guess I'm thinking that how I would view that. I mean, like when you're trying to knock out a tournament, I guess that's an important distinction. I think you're right that you can't afford to ever lose there.
Exactly.
But we quickly know, so week 1, our top scorer was our champion last year, Cowboys and Utes, and I'm trying to pull it up here. And then week 2 was Final Four. Winner Johnny Ross. And these guys are scoring 353 points. And so if you're not scoring 320, then you don't have a team that's going to be even capable to be there in the end. Like you've got to be I'm watching the total scores, and if you're not solidly every week in the 300s, then you're probably not championship bound unless you just start to hit lightning in a bottle. So I see a lot of teams that kind of look like they're okay, but they're not consistently in the mid 300s every week. I think that's the team that's going to really, you kind of have to have that. Like you can kind of quickly tell. And if you're going to try to win the whole thing, like those are teams that are really built.
But to me, is win your league, and then like Cowboys and Utes was second place in the league and won the league. So you got to be in the top 2, and then you got to get into the tournament. And I don't even listen. As long as I'm in that tournament, I don't care. I have a chance. I feel like my team can go out there and win. But if you're like me, I'm 1-1 right now. I got a tough matchup coming up this week. It's like, do I want to go pull the trigger? I got 4 first rounds, 2 second rounds, tons and tons of QBs and young talent, and I'm thinking to myself, do I go upgrade and give it my shot this year? Do you keep holding back? How long do you hold back for? You know what I mean?
I think you take the 4 when you have first round picks. you just are never going to get to that again. I think you take all 4 first-round picks. Remember, you got to start 12. You're going to have, even a good year, you're going to have 4 injuries, and you're going to have to cover up for 3 buys. So you really need between 18 and 19 top players on your team. Like, you need we start 4 receivers. So you got to have 6 top 24 receivers, right, on your team. When you're trying to win the thing, you've got to have 4 top 18 running backs. You've got to have, you got to have enough. You got to have 4 quarterbacks that are in the top 24. You've got to really have yourself in a position where Aaron Rodgers gets hurt, no big deal. I'm just going to move on to the next one. Nick Chubb gets hurt, not a big deal. Like, I just bring in my next dude. I got so much of it, it doesn't matter. Like, kind of like what I was saying about my locals league. Basically, it doesn't matter if Breece Hall gets hurt. Oh, Javonte gets hurt too. That's cool. Like, I've got more. I just got more. I just keep putting in new guys because I've got enough. And then I even get lucky. I have Jerome Ford in that league. He's my running back 9 on a team that starts 2. I've just got a lot of it. I just keep going. And it's not like I have the best quarterbacks in the league. I have the best running backs in the league. I have the best tight ends in the league. I mean, it just doesn't matter. Like, I have Hawkinson, I have Pitts. I just have everything. Like, you just keep accumulating talent, and that way it doesn't matter.
I'm not so sure I throw Pitts in the top tight end league.
Well, no, I think he's a buy. Now, see, I think he's a buy because you see, he got 2 first read touchdown throws. They just overthrown both times. Like, he just got overthrown. Like, the quarterback got to get him the ball. It was the first read. It was the play was scripted for him. He was open. Just didn't throw the ball.
He's just so young. I mean, he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
He's young, but he just doesn't. To me, he looks like a slot receiver. Like, he just looks like a receiver.
I agree with that.
Like, when I look at tight ends, I like to look at a guy like Hawkinson and Kittle and Mark Andrews, and just a big burly, like, go over the middle, sit down, throw it to me, bounce me off 3 guys, rumble in the end zone, bite someone's nose off and spike the football. Like, that's a tight end to me.
I'm gonna look at so in the playoffs last year, 306, 281. So you're right, you can win with that. 268 won, 282, 285, 251, 256.
Yeah.
But I think this is all week 15, and I feel like in week 15 the scores were lower. Like, I feel like, if I remember right,
the weather's going to be bad. I mean, you're going to be playing games in the Northeast out in open fields, grass fields. You go to Pittsburgh, you go to New England, you go to New York, you go to Buffalo, you go to Cleveland, Minnesota, Detroit. Well, Detroit's actually.
And in week 17, Cowboys and Utes won with 300.85. That was his winning score. So that was just kind of looking back here.
I mean, don't get me wrong. You have to have the team that can go out and put up 300 points on a given day.
Here's something, though, just to kind of give you an idea. Johnny Ross, who was our top scorer this week, his record was 13-1 to get in the playoffs. So, he came out as the 1 seed, and then there was a couple guys with 10-4 records, but basically, 13-1, 12-2s, mostly 11-3s, and then a 10-4 twice got in there into the playoffs. So that's what it takes to kind of come out of there. Actually, Mucho was 9-5 coming out of Division B. So that was the worst record that made the top 2. So that's it's good to kind of check back and review. So yeah, as far as winning there, I guess as we wrap up, man, we've been at it for an hour chopping it up, Dan. It was good, but yeah, we'll say so long until next time. Thanks, Brad, for being on the other side of the glass and producing this show and bringing up all the trades and all the props for us. We appreciate that. And for Trader Dan, I'm Ed, and so long for now.